The Urbz is a strange yet personality-filled entry to the Sims series, a mashup of early 2000s culture featuring music from the Blackeyed Peas and Simlish, and as characters within the game. The Urbz holds a special place in my heart. This was that childhood game I rented over and over at my local Rogers Video, which is essentially a blockbuster for you non-Canadian folk. It was the first Sims game to feature apartments until The Sims 2 Apartment Life, and it let my 7-year-old self fantasize about being moved out on my own and living with friends. The Urbz also included many interesting gameplay mechanics, such as jobs where you play a mini game to work, social interactions requiring timed inputs, many different stylistic locations to visit, homes to own, and stylistic clothing to wear, which made this game very special. It was The Sims from a whole new perspective, and I loved it. Before we dive into the video, I wanted to show you guys 3 trailers that ran for this game when it came out. The first trailer I found just as a montage of gameplay from what appears to be a beta of the Urbz, so this trailer would have likely come out a little before the release. It looks like most of the game is intact and is there, just in a more rough, less refined state. I'm sure glad that they went with the Blackeyed Peas. Let's get it started over this music though. Then there are 2 trailers that are virtually identical, one for the UK release and one for the US release. The main difference would be that the UK release has a British lady doing the voiceover for the commercial, and the US release has a lady from the States, which just, makes sense. The other differences that I noticed are the release date in the US trailer is replaced with the UK EA Games link, the UK rating system is visible, and then various system logos that appear on the bottom being reorganized. The UK version also features a big sticker in the top right saying, "Oh, we've got the Blackeyed Peas in this one, boys!" And then it's got the Sims sticker in the bottom right. I think my copy of North American Urbz had that, but it was more silvery, kind of holographic like a Pokemon card. The US version seems to have a lot of emphasis on the Nintendo DS and PlayStation 2, while the other logos are quite small. Then the UK shares pretty much equal real estate with all the various consoles, except for the Nintendo DS, which is missing. The Urbz was released on November 5th of 2004 for all the major consoles at that time. You've got your PlayStation 2, your GameCube, and your original Xbox. The GameCube and original Xbox versions are the best ways to play the game performance-wise. While the Urbz also released for the Game Boy Advance and the Nintendo DS, those games aren't even remotely like the main console releases. They're an entirely different game that just happened to have the same title. So if you're a fan of those versions of the game, we aren't covering that today. Don't be too disappointed though, I'm probably going to cover those games in the future, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss them. As with all Sims games, you start off in the character creation screen. The character creation screen is simply barren within the Urbz. For example, there are only 3 hairstyles available. The lack of choices may catch you off guard, but don't be alarmed. The majority of the character customization, such as hairstyles, tattoos, and clothing, all occurs within the game with earned money. I personally found this to be a welcome change, as it gave more to work towards within the game. The face customization is quite disappointing in this game. There's only a handful of preset faces and facial features. But that being said, they at least have body morphing. Once you finish creating your character, you're gonna notice something strange. The moodlets have been simplified in the Urbz. Yeah, take a look. The moodlets have been reduced to the hunger, hygiene, energy, bladder, and fun moodlets only. It gives you less stats to worry about and manage, which is the core gameplay loop of The Sims. At the end of the day, isn't The Sims really just a glorified Tamagotchi where you get to customize their house and have relationships? At least we still technically have the social moodlet. It was changed into the level system essentially. So I suppose we're only really missing the comfort and environment moodlets from The Sims 1, and seeing as you visit locations such as dirty subways with only subway seats to sit on, it makes sense why they would remove these moodlets. You'd have to be going home every 2 minutes. The Urbz also has a story which I've completely ignored. The story starts off by having will.i.am from the Blackeyed Peas introduce you to this real cool guy named Darius. Darius just so happens to be the most famous Urb in Urbzville, and he's visiting you in your dilapidated apartment. Anyhow, the encounter essentially explains the point of the game. You have to become the most popular Urb in Urbzville, eclipsing Darius. The rest of the story occurs within your XAM, which is essentially a PDA/cell phone. Then there's also the final cutscene, but I'm not going to spoil it. That's about it story-wise. Progressing through the game is simple. You must complete all the tasks for each lot that you can visit. These tasks are located within your XAM. The objectives range from mastering the local jobs to defeating the local villains at their respective location, and even mugging someone or spray painting their face. I thought I'd see those features being only within a game like The Warriors, let alone a Sims game. This game is wild, guys. Wild. Now that I've kind of given you an overview of the Urbz, I want to get down into the nitty-gritty mechanics of the game, and I'm going to break it up into a couple different sections covering different types of mechanics. The first mechanics I want to bring up are the mechanics brought over from the Sims 1 PC. This was the first time we ever saw these features on a console Sims game. These features being pets and community lots. The community lots are essentially all the same community lot, just with a different design, job to do, and theme with new Urbz to meet. That being said, cause they're all so different, they're all a joy to explore. Then you've got the pets. You've got the cat, the dog, and the monkey. Pretty much everyone online hates these little pets, and you know why? Because they don't do anything but pee everywhere, and there's no consequences for not feeding them. And like, the bulldog excessively pees everywhere, man. It's not even funny. A little crazy tidbit, a little crazy fact for you guys. This is the only console Sims game that features pets and split screen. Don't get me started about the fact that there's no split screen in Sims 2 Castaway. That was heartbreaking as a kid. Anyway, the pets are just a little extra spice of life to the game. I really appreciate them. I love them. Yes, they definitely just don't really do anything and pee everywhere though. Alright, now let's talk about the interactive mechanics that the Urbz introduced. I have been dying to tell you guys about these. First, let's start off with the ZAM. The ZAM is essentially a more interactive pause menu with a phone theme to make the game more early 2000s. Within the ZAM, you can call the fire department, order food, call an Urbz to come over, read text from another Urbz, but these are pretty much just guiding you on how to do things, access your furniture, doors, walls, wallpaper, and power socials that are within your inventory, view your goals for each location, customize your phone visually and the ringtone, and finally view your relationships. By the way, check out these hilarious names that some of the Urbz have. We've got a raver named Serotonin, another raver named Professor Chewy, an artist named Crispin Black, another artist named Roxanne Hardplace, a punk named Genghis Lincoln. Genghis Lincoln? What does that even imply? A skater named Skidmark, and a rich fashion hip-hop guy named Cash Monet. These cracked me up when I was recording this and realized what their names actually were. Next up, we've got interactive jobs, and they have to be the craziest thing that ever came out of the Urbz. While the jobs are interactive, they're not like life-changing or anything. As you increase your job levels, the job requires you to do more things, like go socialize with other Sims, eat, or even control another Sim to make sure he gets enough sleep. It's not really that much more challenging, to be honest, but it does make it a little bit more fun. This may surprise some of you, but even skilling is interactive in this game. You basically just need to spam A until the green thingy hits the little zone at the top of the skilling bar, and then you gotta like keep the tempo. It's really not that complicated, and it would have been more enjoyable if it were a more involved mini game like the jobs mini game, which is already debatably quite simple, but it's there, it exists. Check it out. Now let's talk about the interactive social moves. The Urbz still has your classic social moves within this game, but now there's also interactive ones that use timing, kind of like those golfing games if you've ever played them. You gotta time your like power, and then you gotta time your accuracy. Like it kind of plays like that. Power motives are actually one-use items. You get more of them by dumpster diving or going to midnight parties, which happen in each district. They're really important because they let you defeat the villains within the game. We'll talk about villains later. But yeah, interactive social moves. Who would have thought? The Urbz also brought forth some general mechanics that I don't believe were in any Sims game before it. Let's talk about the clothing stores first. Each district has a clothing store that you can visit, and each of them offers a distinct clothing style and sometimes haircuts. You have to dress according to whichever district you're in, so you'll be changing clothes quite often. I believe changing your clothes to match the district you're in helps with other Urbz responding positively to your social. There might be some sort of social decay when you aren't dressed appropriately for the area, but I always change before that happens, so I'm not too sure. Each district also has furniture stores with furniture that is specific to that district. I think these are incredibly neat mechanics. Alright, hold on, I just need to complain for a second. The amount of times I've had Sims just standing in doorways and blocking doorways, or animals blocking doorways while trying to get footage, is insane. I have never had more door blockage in a Sims game than in this game. It is absolutely infuriating, especially when you're doing a timed event like the Midnight Club. Alright, back to new mechanics that came out with the Urbz. One of the most interesting things about this game is this is the first Sims game to ever feature weather. It was the first one. That is just mind-blowing. Another interesting feature that I don't think was ever in a Sims game before this one was having multiple apartments that you could live in and go to whenever you pleased. I don't even think that's made a return in the new games. I don't think you can have multiple apartments for one Sim or multiple lots for one Sim. Very cool. So there's 3 apartments. You get your original, like, kind of crappy one, and then you get a more upscale apartment, and then finally you get the penthouse. It is just awesome how many goals you have to work towards in this game. Another interesting mechanic that only exists in this game is the different districts have different relationships with different districts. For example, with Kicktail Park, they like Neon East, dislike Cosmo Street, are neutral toward Diamond Heights, are neutral towards Southside Bridge, dislike Skyline Beach, neutral towards Gasoline Row, like Central Station, and like the Foundry. Every single district has different preferences. It is really interesting. Another feature they added is in each district, you can go to this district and invite an Urbz to your crew. Once an Urbz is in your crew, you are able to press the Z button on the GameCube controller and you can now control them. You can even go get them to change their outfits. Speaking of that, if you're just cool enough and have a good enough relationship with an Urbz, they will just automatically change to whatever you're wearing. It is really funny. Last but not least, the Urbz has non-playable characters that are scripted. First, there's the villains, Kiki Blunt, Urangu McBain, and Harry Snivel. They come to the different districts and just torture everybody. You need to use a power social to ban them forever. Then there are the service NPCs. You got Scotty Almost, who is the bouncer. Then you've got JJ Bradley, the janitor. Officer Sludge, who will fine you if you fall asleep in public and will beat you up if he catches you gambling. Then there's Captain Catastrophe that comes whenever there's a fire, or if a Sim dies, he'll revive them with a defibrillator. I love how the Urbz is just like burning to death in front of him and he's like, "Oh, look at me, I'm so friggin' cool." There is a man burning to death right in front of you. Can you not flex for 2 seconds? And finally, Slim Freddy, the delivery man. Slim Freddy has the most hilariously awkward design. It's just awesome. There's Darius, who you met earlier in this video. Darius arrives at the midnight parties to reward you. He'll give you a power social depending on the district you're in. And finally, Bobo the Hobo, who just roams the various districts. Now we're going to talk about a lost mechanic. They removed woohooing from the Urbz. What an absolutely wild and strange mechanic to remove from a game that literally includes noises of gunshots, screams, police in the background, and then you're able to mug and fight people or even gamble and then get beat up by a cop. You can even go huff oxygen. I wonder why it's raising the fun bar if it's just oxygen. The developers were just like, yeah, let's remove woohooing because that makes sense. Splitscreen thankfully made a comeback in the Urbz, which isn't common for these more ambitious Sims titles. The Sims 2 Pets and the Sims 2 Castaway both lack it, and I wish those games had it. Totally heartbreaking. So you'll even see the other Urbz that you personally create walking around the world. I made Steve Craft as an example for you guys to see the feature. They also have the certain swagger or walk from whichever district they belong to. Just watch Steve Craft strut his stuff. What a legend. The only limitation of the split screen is that one player can only work at one time. The other player has to go do other stuff like go get their social level up, which is really important for the game, so it's not like it even matters that much. But overall, oh my gosh, am I glad split screen is in the game. While I was working on this video, I forgot how good the soundtrack actually is. I'm always just like vibing out, head bopping to the tracks. They're so good. This has to be one of the best soundtracks that has ever been featured in a Sims game, straight up. Maybe I'm just biased because I grew up listening to early 2000s music and this is one of my favorite games of all time. That could be. My favorite song other than the intro song is Jabba Dawa. Hip-hop is not the only music that's in the game, though. There's all kinds of different genres. I think this is like metal or something. I really love that song, too. What I'm trying to say is that the soundtrack is reason enough to play this game. Go play it. Just go play it. The last thing I wanted to talk about in this game is the blatant advertising. In the skate park level, there is a Honda car and a big Honda sign. Then in the very same skate park level, there is a Red Bull machine where you drink out of it and then you stomp the Red Bull on the ground. I don't remember there being product placement in a Sims game like literally ever, so like what's going on here? Pretty interesting. Before we close out the video with some thanks, I wanted to talk about some little interesting tidbits I found out about the Urbz development and the Urbz 2 development on the Urbz wiki. Supposedly, the Urbz started development in the early 2000s when The Sims was considered a success, though it was delayed due to staffing issues. The Urbz was supposed to be the actual first console Sims game, not the Sims 1 port. Ports of the Urbz were even supposed to come out on the PSP, the Dreamcast, and the PC. Wow, did we friggin' miss out, guys. The Dreamcast port was cancelled due to the fact the Dreamcast got discontinued, and the PSP version was cancelled due to poor sales of the Urbz on console. Apparently, based on beta screenshots, the PSP version would have played very similarly to The Sims 2 Pets and The Sims 2 Castaway. I tried to hunt down these beta screenshots and I couldn't find any. It is also noted that the Urbz is supposed to be a spin-off title of The Sims, not some sort of one-off Sims game like The Sims Castaway. They were supposed to keep releasing Urbz games. It was never supposed to go away. From what I'm reading, they were even supposed to do merchandising, including product placement and figurines. Take a look at one of the figures right now. I would love to have one of those. Anyhow, sadly, all of these plans were scrapped because the game did not perform as well as they thought it would. And that leads us to the terrible tale of the Urbz 2 being cancelled. The Urbz 2 started being developed a little before the Urbz came out. The Urbz 2 was supposed to introduce new features such as online play, multi-story housing, and children. What a friggin' letdown, guys. The wiki states that the Urbz 2 for console was converted into The Sims 2 for console. Apparently, if you data mine The Sims 2, you'll find textures, Zam ringtones, and even NPC thumbnails. The game was just reworked into The Sims 2. I was extremely skeptical of this, especially because the wiki had no references. So I did some digging and found the original post that this wiki entry was based on from modthesims.info. The original poster deleted the post because apparently somebody legally representing EA was going after them. You can look at this original post on the Wayback Machine. I'm incredibly skeptical of this, and while I want to believe it, it doesn't really appear to be true. One of you should go data mine the game and let me know what you find. A special thanks to the Urbz development team for making one of my favorite games of all time. You guys rock.
Toi, fisto te patois, kies dollar boom boom, sin cabo du aquat. Sha luma tu, fisaba te keito. Sha tuto, bitika like Plato. Sha tisto, pique, masi tweet. Wille ko katwa, fisaba te cat tweet. Say tuda, fala kada tuda. J bullet, feel be rockin' the day duda. Sha right through ya, sha la pom bling. Sing pulum, but think game a sing thing. Silla kick up or low, but thing swing. Silla keep up, she call it, but thing swing.
And a very special thanks to my YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Cesar Rodriguez, right now it's only you, but thank you so much, man. You keep me motivated. Every single one of you involved in my community push me to make better content and make my day. Catch you guys in the next one. Shot